So I felt the need to put a little introduction on top of this video because it is extraordinarily long for a YouTube video, but that's kind of what I do. So, but I did want to explain a few things. First of all, this video is partially in honor of, a couple of days ago was the 5th anniversary of the lockdown for COVID for all of us. And I wanted to acknowledge that moment and talk about it a little bit. And the other thing that this video is about, you know, very often in music, in theater, in film, you know, we hear about these tragic, broken relationships and how, you know, love gone wrong and stuff like that. But it's not as often, and I actually think it's pretty rare, that we hear about just friendships that go wrong like that, you know? I mean, for me, it's a lot. If I consider you my friend, that takes a lot from me. And I don't take it for granted either. I do not take my friends for granted. So this is a story of somebody who was kind of, you know, like, I wouldn't say he was like a brother to me, but we were good friends. We worked together when we first met. I was very close with him and his father, actually. And we were all friends. And something happened, and it was actually because of the pandemic, because of the shutdown specifically. And it was the end of our friendship, which kind of pissed me off, you know? Like, not that I was so hurt, because I can't describe what I was feeling as hurt. And, you know, of course, if you know my work, I'm not afraid to say when I'm hurt. This really just pissed me off. You know, this was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I wanted to talk about that because I actually think this is, if not equally as common, maybe even more common with people, with friendships. So I wanted to include that too. The last part of this introduction, or this need to make an introduction, is that this video is very long. Like, it's as long as a feature film. But you know what? I see plenty of videos on YouTube, like, you know, people doing live streams and talking about cameras and gear and lenses and surfboards and bicycles and computers and whatever that are actually longer than this, but not necessarily one guy talking to the camera. So I did want to come on here and just tell you that, first of all, if you watch this entire video, I know you like me. And I really appreciate that. And I know you like the work that I do. But I also want to say that if you don't have that kind of time to spend, and if you're not so inclined for whatever reason, it's up to you. I ain't mad at you for that. It's fine, you know. You don't have to, I guess I'm just kind of avoiding all the comments that might come, like, what the hell's wrong with you? YouTube videos should not be 90 minutes long, or whatever this is. Like, I get it. I know what YouTube is, you know, but I'm kind of the anti-YouTuber, you know. Like, this is almost, a lot of my videos are like an act of defiance against this short form content thing that I think is breaking our brains. But I'm not judging anybody, you know. If that's what you're into, that's fine, you know. But for me, I'm more of a long form content kind of person. If you work out in the morning, if you stretch, if you do strength work, if you're in the gym, you know, whatever, if you have a morning spiritual practice that you do while you're cooking or whatever, that might be a good time to turn this on. I mean, there's some absolutely beautiful footage in this video because I wound up going to a place that I love so much. And also, it's also a test of using Cine Like V. I always shoot in log. I'm shooting in log right now, and actually right now, I'm shooting with the Panasonic S5. But the rest of this video is my final video talking about the GH5. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's a great camera, and I shot in Cine Like V, and it actually happened totally by accident. And it looks great, I think. So you could tell me what you think. But anyway, I just wanted to say, I know it's long, and it is intentional. I watched it back. I considered cutting it into halves or thirds, but then I thought, you know, making it part 1, part 2, part 3, but it's like, it feels good the way it is. And so it's going to get whatever views it's going to get, and that's fine. And I feel like every time I make a video, I'm trying to make my best contribution, and that's how I feel about this video, and so I'm going to leave it the way it is. And personally, I think you should watch it. So, oh, and by the way, there's a lot of great footage in the transitions, and I just wanted to share, and I do this on purpose. A lot of my videos, I put some really beautiful footage and some interesting stuff always at the very end of the video, because I'm just kind of curious who actually gets to the end. And, you know, I'll get comments from people who got there. You know, sometimes I know people will fast forward to the end. And that's one of the reasons I never shared this, because I feel like now that I said this, people are going to just go to the end. But I always put some kind of beautiful footage at the end or something back there that is meaningful, because I feel like I'm almost giving a gift to those who sit down and watch the whole thing, who sit down as if they're watching a movie on Netflix or a documentary or something like that, like, oh, it's a Rokkor video. You know, I need to like carve out some time for this and make some space for it. And if you do that, that's something I really do not take for granted, because that is an incredibly generous gesture of your time and your energy. And again, something I do not take for granted. I keep moving forward because this light will blow me out over here. I'm outside. So anyway, just wanted to explain that. Hope you watch the whole thing. If you don't, I love you anyway, but I know if you do, you love me. So yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool. The footage, awesome. GH5, awesome, but I'm sticking with my S5, and I'm probably going to get an S1H very soon. But that's a whole other video. So onward, here we go. Get to the video. Shut up, Rock. All right, so look, this is going to be the last video that I make about the Panasonic GH5. I'm probably still going to own it for a while, but I did do some testing on it to see if it was a viable option in 2025. And so I'm just going to say up front in this video, if this is what you're looking for, in my opinion, the GH5 is not a good camera for 2025. Let me explain. The reason I think it's not a good camera for 2025 is, first of all, it's got an incredible image quality. Like, if you can't get a good image out of this camera, you're the problem. It's got nothing to do with that. Like, you can make absolute feature film, miniseries, documentary, anything worthy of HBO, Netflix, big screen in a theater, absolutely. You know, it's got 4K 10-bit 422, 4K 60, no crop. It's got open gate. It's got full-size HDMI. It's got, you know, AI, you know, all eye codecs. It's got incredible capabilities. Ridiculous. Micro Four Thirds is not in any way a disadvantage, in my opinion. Not at all. Shallow depth of field, low light, no problems. I'm shooting in low light right now. I don't think any of that is an issue. You can get all kinds of lenses for it. You can adapt pretty much any lens to it. You could shoot anamorphic. I mean, it's a dream in many ways. The things I don't like about it, the reason I don't think it's good for 2025, you could get other options for a very close price that are easier to work with. Like, first of all, you have shutter angle, right? Obviously. But the little knob on the top is so easy to move. It's a pain in the ass. I am forever moving that knob, and I could not figure out how to lock it. So, you know, I'm setting it to 180 degrees, but it just moves all the time. So that's a pain in the ass. The screen. You'll see in this video I complain about the screen all the time. I think the screen on this camera when you're outside in sunlight is horrible. It's hard to focus. It's hard to get your composition together. It's hard to really understand what you're seeing. And I don't understand why, because supposedly it's not a different screen than the S5. But on the Panasonic S5, I have absolutely no problems focusing, manually focusing, because I only manually focus. I have no problems composition. I don't care how bright it is outside. I love the screen on the S5. So I don't know what's up with the GH5 monitor, but the monitor on this camera sucks. It's terrible. I mean, right now it's fine. indoors, and in many situations it's fine. And do I think you can get used to it? I could get used to it, you know, but then you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants sometimes, and I don't like the thought of that. So that's, you know, if you can get better options for just a few $100s more, why go with the GH5? So yeah, you can get a GH5 for, like I got this for $475. You can get one for $500, $600, $400, and you will have a movie making machine, like an incredible camera, dual card slots. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's got pretty much everything that you need. The ISO capabilities on this are unbelievable. You know, like I crank up the ISO sometimes and I don't see any kind of noise that really bothers me. And during the day, this camera is incredible. Great dynamic range. It's got V-Log L, which is a little bit different than V-Log. And this started out as just a test on Cinelike V because I heard somebody talking about it recently and I tried it and it looks gorgeous, like beautiful. I mean, so if you're into a, you know, a picture profile like that and you don't want to shoot in log, it's got a lot of, you know, great options. Like, it's a great camera. It's an amazing camera. But I'm just saying, I think because of some of the options, the menu is a little convoluted and weird. Like the S5 menu is easy. This menu, not so easy. But this has some capabilities that the S5 doesn't have. And personally, I think since the S5 is full frame, a lot of people will find that to be an advantage. Personally, I don't know about that. Like, I kind of love the way Micro Four Thirds looks, but that I think is a personal thing. Like, I'm finding that I like to look at the world through a crop sensor. Like, when I shoot anamorphic on the S5, I'm using APS-C lenses. It just feels better to me for some reason. I don't know what it is. I often get into APS-C mode when I use the S5, and I shoot wide when I need to, you know, full frame. I shoot low light a lot. I don't really see much of an advantage. I mean, I like that I have a dual native ISO on the S5 and I don't have it on this camera, but anyway, unbelievably capable, great camera, Panasonic GH5. If you're not interested in autofocus and if you don't need all those crazy codecs, I don't think there's any reason to even get a GH7 other than you can have amazing audio, 32-bit float with that, you know, XLR extension. I think you can use the Panasonic XLR extension that came before that 32 float one that you could use with the S5 on this camera, but I'm not sure about that, and I'm not going to look it up. But of course, I record all my audio on an external device anyway, so it doesn't make a difference, but I do find that the preamps on this camera are really good. Matter of fact, right now I'm shooting with a Boya shotgun mic, a cheap little $20 mic, and I think it sounds pretty good. I'm like 5 feet away from the camera. It should sound like shit, but it doesn't sound like shit. I mean, the ambience of the room is a little annoying, but I'm just doing this at the beginning of the video, so it's not a big deal. But preamps really good. Full-size HDMI, if you use external monitors, that's a big advantage to the micro HDMI from the S5. I can't really think of any other disadvantage. I actually think, honestly, in many ways, the GH5 is more capable than the S5. And most importantly, throw everything else away. The image quality coming out of this camera is ridiculous. Like, it is so fucking good. And so, if you're really about your work, like if you are really about making something look exactly the way you want it to look, the GH5 is a great option. You know, you'll get used to the monitor, you'll get used to the knob up on the top, that, you know, the dial that just keeps moving my shutter angle, you know, like, and maybe there is a way to lock it. I don't know. I couldn't find it because the menu is a pain in the ass. But having said that, if this was my only camera, I would have no complaints. I would be so grateful to just have this camera. I would make sure I got a few lenses that I really, really felt like I needed to shoot the way I wanted to shoot. I'd probably get 2 anamorphic lenses. I would get the Siri Micro Four Thirds lenses because they're inexpensive. They look amazing. This lens that I'm using right here, I'm using it on this entire video coming up that you're going to see. And this lens literally cost me less than $100 brand new. TT Artisan 17mm f1.4. I also have a Mikey 35mm f1.4. That was the last video that you saw. Also, I think $75. Like, these lenses are ridiculous. I can adapt all of my vintage lenses to this camera. So yeah, micro four thirds. If you could deal with, when you get used to the fact that your focal lengths are doubled, which is totally meaningless if this is your only system that you're using, you get used to it, it's a great camera. Having said that, and I'll end with this and then get to the rest of the video, I think right now, 2025, with everything else that's available, excuse me, the monitor is a big deal for me. I find it hard to work with. I can't even see the level, gauge out in bright sunlight. Like, to see when it turns green, it's just really hard to see. You have to have unbelievable eyesight. So the monitor on this is a pain. So if you like using an external monitor outdoors, then you won't have any problems at all. But the monitor for me is the thing that would make me not want to buy this camera now, because you could get a Sony, you could get, all these other Panasonic cameras. There's a lot of other options that are really reasonably priced. Even an S5, you could get now used for $750, $800, like new. So personally, I think that's a much better option. There are Blackmagic options that are much better because their screens are much better. So yeah, I would say in 2025, because of those few little stupid limitations, I would maybe go with a different camera. But I'll say this, it's a difficult choice because you might very well be getting the best image quality, the most cinematic image quality, the image quality that has beautiful, beautiful roll-off from the highlights to the shadows, that has a creamy yet sharp image, like it's really film-like. That makes me pause for a minute and go, you know what? The ends justify the means, right? Like, you're trying to get a great movie. You're trying to make a beautiful film. You're trying to create the highest form of art. And this camera can get you there. So if you're diligent, if you're dedicated, if you're committed, if you learn your instrument, if you learn this thing like it's the back of your hand, like you master it, you know how to use it, you know what the monitor looks like, what it's supposed to look like, you figure out whether you want to shoot in log and you get your color grading together, or you decide, you know what, one of these, picture profiles works fine for me. I mean, if I'm using Cine like V, what I'm learning is if I told you I shot in log and I color graded it, you would believe me. Because if you know how to expose, you're good. And I promise I'll end this section with this. I know I said that already, but this is the other thing. In a way, and this might sound crazy, but in a way, I'm tired of having unbelievable dynamic range. Because, once you have this 14, 17 stops of dynamic range on these cameras, you start to expose to make sure that you get everything out of the image. And sometimes that's not stylized. There's no vibe. There's no groove to that. There's no soul. Like, I've been watching a lot of old Italian films lately. I'm just obsessed with old movies. And I don't know, I'm kind of more into, like, give me some contrast and blow out some of the highlights on purpose. Like, give me that look. Like, I don't always want everything to be so clean and so crystal clear. And I don't want somebody to sit in the theater and go, oh my God, he saved the highlights on that shot. That's unbelievable. Look at the shadows. You can see the shadows. Like, that's an epic fail. I want somebody to be sitting in the audience weeping over the story or laughing or feeling something, And, if I can do that with contrast, like exposing in the way that best serves the story, that's what I'm talking about. So I think it's really kind of overrated to be able to get everything out of the image, unless, you're like a commercial filmmaker or something like that, and you're doing a lot of commercials and you have to be, able to do anything for anybody. You have to be like a jack of all trades and be that person who can provide anybody with anything they want. But if you're an artist creating his or her own work, if you're creating your own style, what you do, then I think once you get a camera and you learn it, and if you come up with some picture profile that you're really kind of feeling, or if you create a LUT, like if you're shooting in log and you get everything, but then you create this LUT that kind of pulls the colors and the shadows and the highlights in a way that you're feeling it, that's much more artistic to me, much more creative, you know. It's not like, you know, like, hey, yo, my camera could do anything. My camera's so much better than your camera. Just look at the highlights. That's fucking stupid to me. Like, I don't care. So the GH5 is actually an awesome option in 2025, but I think there are options out there that can get you probably equally as great an image, or at least close, or something that, you know, who knows whether it's better or worse. That's kind of subjective. But there are little things on this, like the monitor bothers me, that little knob bothers me, and that's it. But otherwise, it's small, it's cheap, it's capable, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's a beast. You can beat the crap out of it while you're working. I love it. So yeah, I wanted to say that. That's partially what this video is about. The other thing that this video is about, this is the 5th anniversary of the lockdown from COVID in 2020. And I went through some stuff over discussions about the lockdown, and found out that a friend of mine is kind of a conspiracy theorist. And I have a lot of issue with that. And I'm going to let you watch this video, and then I'm going to share something with you at the end. Why I got no time for conspiracy theorists anymore. Like, I can't even listen to it. You know, I have some friends who are into that bullshit, and I try to listen to everybody, and I want to be open to everybody, and I don't want ever to think that somebody's stupid or dumb, or I'm smarter than them, or what. Like, I don't want to ever feel that way. But there is something called the truth, and there are things called the facts. And I'm not into this whole thing, like, you know, gaslighting me, trying to make me think, well, there's a slight kind of minuscule possibility that you might be wrong. You know, not everything is what it looks like. And I'm like, if I'm looking at something, that's what it is. So anyway, let's watch the video, and I'll come back at the end and I'll share this story with you. So go ahead on. I shot this video yesterday, and I listened back to it last night, and I was like, you know what? It was a little bit too personal to me. And as much as I don't necessarily think that's such a bad thing sometimes on YouTube, I didn't want to do it. It was actually directed at somebody who I think I'm just going to give him a call. But the video is really about, yesterday was, I guess, 5-year anniversary of the lockdown from COVID in 2020. And I wanted to acknowledge that, you know. I wanted to take a moment and just say, you know, we all went through a lot. And for me, I know personally, in many ways, I still haven't recovered from it. Things just haven't really gotten back to normal. And in many ways, my life has completely changed. On one level, in a bad way, like it's kind of completely blown up my whole life. And in another way, it's been in a great way. I'm here, I feel really grateful today, and I'm feeling really fortunate. I'm up here in Hook Mountain National Park in Nyack, New York, which is one of my 5 favorite places on the planet Earth. One of my favorite places, my favorite place is New York City, period, end of discussion. That's without question. And this is in no particular order, but Nyack is definitely in that top 5. The Bay Area near San Francisco, Stinson Beach specifically, definitely one of my 5 favorite places on the earth, that beach. I think that probably upstate New York, where I'm living now, has got to be now my top 5. I love it so much up there. I mean, it's not New York City, it's not even Marin, but I'm really coming to appreciate it up there. You know, it's funny, I've never even been to Albany in my whole life. I mean, Albany, New York is like the capital of New York State, and I have literally never set foot in Albany. I live close to a town called Kingston, New York, which used to be the capital of New York State, but no longer. But I was very proud of Albany yesterday because I was listening to the radio. I was listening to NPR, and I guess the president has threatened Albany with federal funding because they're a sanctuary city. And this, the mayor in Albany spoke very firmly, directly towards him, that Albany will always be a sanctuary city, that they welcome and honor anybody who comes there to live, especially people who have, you know, gotten away from, in many, many cases, unspeakable and unbelievably horrific circumstances. And she said everybody who comes here will feel safe and welcome and a part of our community. And I listened to that and I was like, yeah, I love you, Albany. So that's one of my five, you know, like I have some other places, but this place right here in Nyack is definitely one of my top 5 places. I used to run every morning. There's a trail down there called Hook Mountain State Park Trail, I guess. And it's a 6-mile dirt trail right on the river. It goes all the way up to Haverstraw, which is a town north of here. And it's just incredibly peaceful and incredibly beautiful. So, but also, by the way, I'm shooting with the Panasonic GH5, and I'm using Cine-like V because I kind of wanted to experiment with it, and that's kind of like what this video is about as well. I never really shot in anything but log since I've been using cameras, and I've heard a lot of people talk about Cine-like V with the GH5, and so I'm just kind of curious how it looks. And you know, after I shot the video yesterday and I went home and I looked at what I did, I was like, damn, Cine-like V looks good. So as much as I don't think I'll use it for like a feature film or anything like that, I mean, I'm working on a new feature right now. I want to have as much flexibility in the color grading and color correcting process as possible. So I'm going to shoot in log. And I'm also not using the GH5 for the film. I'm shooting with the S5. I'm shooting it mostly anamorphic. So, but I mean, when I am using the GH5, especially if I'm going to do like a YouTube video or something like that, if Cine-like V is really as good as I think it was last night, yeah, I might check out some other color profiles too. So, hold up for a sec. Sorry, I got people walking across me to get to this beach over here. I'll get some footage for you before I leave. So anyway, yeah, if I'm shooting YouTube videos or things that, you know, I'm not needing, you know, an incredible amount of flexibility in post-production, then yeah, I'll definitely think of using Cine-like V or maybe some of the other color profiles. I'm actually thinking of shooting my film in black and white, and I don't know if it's better to shoot in log and then desaturate, or if it's better to maybe find a good black and white color profile. But anyway, real quick, because I'm kind of in a public space where a lot of people are around here, I just wanted to talk about that lockdown. I think that, I know for me it affected me in profound ways, you know, and it did change my life because I'm a performing artist and I had a lot of shows canceled over, you know, for a year and a half after the lockdown. And suddenly I became a filmmaker. And honestly, I haven't been on stage since the pandemic, which is weird because my whole life was about being on stage for well over a decade. Like every waking minute of every day of my life was about rehearsing or getting prepared for a performance. And suddenly I was in an entire different realm of creativity. I just remember it being incredibly scary at the beginning. A lot of people died around my neighborhood. I was right up the street from Montefiore Hospital. I remember dealing with a lot of people who were kind of denying that anybody was getting sick, which was driving me a little crazy since I knew people who were losing people to COVID. And so it was a difficult time, and I think we're all still kind of recovering. I don't think that the world has been the same since. I don't think that we've completely recovered. And So it'll be interesting to see where we move from here, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now. I think we're at a pretty delicate moment right now. And I'm a little unsure of whether it's a good time or a bad time. I guess time will tell, but I know one thing that I learned from the pandemic, when I thought everything was gone and everything was done in my life and everything was canceled, and I had, you know, had a big stoppage to everything that I had worked for about 2.5 years, and I kind of finally gathered myself and got myself together, and I made a movie. I made a feature film during the pandemic. I did something creative that I had never done before. I used everything that I had learned from my time in the music business and my time in theater, and I created a story based on the story that got canceled, which was supposed to open at the Signature Theater. And I created an amazing film that I'm so proud of, that I shot on my phone. And so that's what I'm always going to think about when I think of the lockdown, you know, that I'm so grateful that I documented that time with a film, with a story. Something that helped me to kind of get through that time from what had been, what seemed like kind of the end of my life in a way. This helped me to get through that difficult moment, and I'm so grateful that it's documented. So I guess this video is just to acknowledge the lockdown. I don't really want to hear about any conspiracy theories or all that stuff. You could lose me with that, because I personally witnessed people that I know personally deal with the horrific results of what COVID did to millions of people. So, yeah. And also, this video is a good test, you know, Micro Four Thirds, which I don't really shoot. Cine Light V, which is a color profile, a picture profile that I never use. So I'm always trying to improve, always trying to get better, always trying to be open to new and different things. And how does it look? I think it looks pretty good. So I got a bunch of cut-ins to this video, and but I'm going to end it now because there's too many people out here. And we'll see how this part of the video is, if I'm even going to keep it, because I feel a little preoccupied at the moment. I got a bunch of people staring at me, which feels kind of creepy. So onward we go. Hopefully there'll be no more lockdowns. Hopefully we'll get through this difficult time, and who knows, maybe that difficult time steeled us and prepared us for what's ahead right now, which seems to be pretty fucking scary. All right, so I am crazy. It's raining out here. We'll see how long I last. It's just a little drizzle, plus it's a good test. I'm using the Panasonic GH5, and I'm using a TT Artisan 17mm f1.4 lens, and it's kind of raining on and off, but I absolutely had to stop my day and make a video today, because today is the 5th anniversary of the lockdown in 2020. And I wanted to talk about it because I lost a friend recently to this very subject, or due to this very subject. And you know, it's like one of those things that is it's like lingering out there and just sitting out there as a question, because he didn't even really have the decency to talk to me about it or to say anything. This was a good friend, somebody who I've known for many, many years. You know, somebody who I consider somebody close to me, which I don't have many people like that in my life. But, you know, we were talking about the pandemic. This was a couple of months ago, probably 5 or 6 months ago now. And he said, you know, he finally said something to me like, yeah, you know what, we really got to get to the truth. They got to tell us the truth of why they did that, because, you know, that was just some, you know, like, they got to tell us the truth. And I was like, that was some what? He goes, they got to tell us the truth. Like, there was no reason to lock us down like that. And I was like, the truth was that millions of people died. And New York City, at least where I was the scariest place on earth. And what are you talking about? Like, people were staying at home to protect one another from possibly infecting one another, to continue a pandemic that was completely out of control. So you know what's funny? What's crazy, sometimes these cool accidents happen. You know, I look back at the footage that I just shot outside in the rain, and I'm like, why does it look so different than what I'm used to on this monitor? Like, you know, I kind of hate the monitor on the GH5. It's driving me crazy, and I'm like, what? And also, while I was shooting, I was trying to get my exposure together, and I'm like, why is my exposure like exploding all over? It's just not responding the way it usually does. I always shoot in log, and it's just weird. And then I realized I was shooting in Cine Like V by accident. I kind of checked it out yesterday real quick because I watched a video, somebody talking about Cine Like V, and I always shoot in log, always. And I was like, maybe I should check out Cine Like V. Everybody says that looks really good on the GH5. And so I checked it out. So I'm not going to really know what this looks like till I get home on my computer. But I think that's pretty funny that it happened by accident. So consider this also a test of Cine Like V on the GH5. It's not something that I think I would grade all that much, but maybe just at a camera, it'll look good enough. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I just thought I'd bring that up before I play this video for you, which might seem like a random, weird kind of video, but I'm talking about today is the anniversary of the lockdown, the COVID lockdown from 5 years ago in 2020, and I just wanted to acknowledge it. I think it's important to acknowledge such things, and I don't know. I feel a lot of different ways about it. So anyway, check out the video. Because a lot of people also were not vaccinating, which, whatever, I don't care whether you did or you didn't, but the fact that we were staying away from each other, social distancing, you know, respecting one another, because there was just so much unknown. Like, we didn't really know what was happening. So it was like a social contract, like saying, you know what, we don't really know what's going on here. You know, no matter where this came from, no matter what it is or whatever, people are literally dying. And so let's stay away from each other for a minute until we figure this out. And so we had this conversation, and I literally never heard from him again. He's ghosted me. He's out. This is somebody who I spoke to on the regular, like, just gone. I mean, you know, it's funny. I never think about shooting in anything but log. Like, once I learned how to grade, once I really got into DaVinci Resolve and I started working with, you know, dynamic range and colors and pushing things around and trying to make everything look the way I want it to look, you know, it almost became like I was doing something that wasn't even important to the story necessarily. I mean, choosing the right colors for a story is kind of important. That is something that we should do. And, you know, I think a color, or, you know, a color scheme for a film does definitely bring an energy to it. You know, like if you watch like a movie, for example, like Goodfellas, you know, or The Godfather, very, 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 very specific with the colors of those films. Like, you could definitely say that movie is kind of maroon or red, or, you know, there are colors like green. And I do the same thing with my movies. I choose colors. You know, I choose a scheme that fits with the feeling or the energy of what I'm trying to get across. But I don't know if I could do that with a color profile. You know, I think I could do it probably if I'm shooting a film in black and white. But to be honest with you, I guess because of the way I've trained myself, I would rather shoot in color and then work with the contrast and, you know, then desaturate. But does that not make any sense? Like, maybe I should just pick a great black and white color profile and work with that if I'm going to do black and white. But then I lose the possibility of having some of it in color if I want to bring color to a certain section of a film. It's kind of weird when you think about it. So I don't know, I'm really interested to see how this Cine-like V looks when I get back to my apartment, because it would save me a lot of time if I could have something that is just great at a camera, you know? Like if I'm in a beautiful scene like this, I mean, it's a dark gray day, so there's not a lot of color out there. It's really windy. I hope that microphone, you know, the dead cat, which I hate that word, but I hope it works on this microphone, because I don't think it's really that good. But DaVinci Resolve does have amazing voice isolation, so that would probably help. But anyway, this is actually my favorite kind of day to shoot. And how does it look? Cine-like V. Do the colors look nice? My sweatshirt, you like the green? The colors behind me are kind of gray, brown, green. I mean, this is probably a bad day to test it, but this is my favorite kind of day to shoot. So anyway, let's get back to the video. I know I wanted to kind of break up this video because it's kind of intense and it was kind of personal to me, but I also thought it would resonate with a lot of people, because I think it's a subject that probably a lot of people deal with. So let's go back to it. All right. And I have so much disrespect for somebody who does something like that, you know? I mean, it's one thing if you ghost somebody who you don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I've had to turn my back on plenty of people being a performing artist. You know, people who show up in my life out of the blue, and then they turn out to be some crazy fucking person, like some toxic weirdo. Yeah, I got to protect myself. But if you're a good friend for years, if I know you, like if I literally know you, if I've been with you in person, if we've shared meals, if we've hung out, if we've done things, if we've worked together, obviously I would never do that. I can't think of anything more disrespectful than ghosting somebody who is supposedly your friend, somebody who you know. I literally can't think of anything that's more disrespectful than that. To just completely not speak to somebody out of the blue like that because you disagree with something they said that you don't even know about. Because nobody really knows. The only thing we do know as a fact was that people were dying. Yo, I just wanted to add too, you know, and actually it's kind of funny to me because, you know, Cabral, if you're watching this, Luis, I don't know if you're watching this video, but if you are, I do totally understand now why you like that Blackmagic camera better than the GH5 that you were using, because of the monitor. Because man, the monitor on the GH5 sucks. Like, I love this camera and it's got incredible image quality, but the monitor on this thing is horrible, yo. So, I mean, I could actually, like, I'm somebody who never uses autofocus, but I'm like, yo, I could use autofocus on this camera because this monitor sucks. Just shooting myself like this is a pain in the ass. So I totally understand that, Cabral, you're right about that. But I love this camera. I think if I was a GH5 user, I would be using an external monitor all the time. I mean, unless, I don't know, maybe I would get used to it. But compared to the S5, like, to me, the S5 monitor is so much better than this monitor, for sure. So this is camera talk in between the main video that I was making about, you know, 5 years since we got locked down for COVID, and losing friends and people ghosting and all that kind of stuff. But man, oh, and Cine-like V, like, I don't know, I can't wait till I get home to look at this because I'm excited to see if it looks good. It kind of changes the way I think about things. So, but I'm always going to use the log for, like, I'm shooting a feature film right now. Obviously, I'm going to shoot log because then I have complete flexibility. I'm not locked into anything. But for YouTube videos, stuff like this, yeah, I would consider using Cine-like V and maybe even experimenting with some of the other color profiles. I'm going to check it out. So, I mean, I'm also somebody who doesn't really use LUTs. So to have something like this would be pretty cool. But, you know, I also, you know, I've used LUTs for the first time over the past couple of months, and I enjoy them. So man, you know, like we're always learning, we're always flexible, we're always open to new things. And yes, and that other people were going out there and working, like nurses, doctors, essential workers, delivery people, stuff like that. We do know that. We know people were risking their lives for you and for me. I was actually out there being an essential worker. I mean, this whole ghosting thing is just ridiculous. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge the 5-year anniversary of the lockdown. You know, I was still living in the Bronx, obviously. It was an incredibly difficult time. I lived down the street from Montefiore Hospital. It was scary, crazy scary. People in my building died. A lot of people in a lot of people in my circle in the Bronx had people in their families who died. You know, people who wouldn't have died unless they got this virus. Like, it's not like, oh, people just died and we said it was COVID. Like, no, people died from COVID. That's reality, that's the truth. You know, it wasn't like suddenly people were just like coincidentally all dying at the same time for no apparent reason. Like, is that what you really think? If I'm being really honest, I hate when people say if I'm being really honest. Like, I'm not being dishonest at all, so scratch that. I'm being really honest. I'm positive I can get used to the monitor on this camera. Like, I don't want it to feel like I'm complaining. It's just that there's something about the glare on this monitor that is different than the S5. I can't really, you know, that's the only way I could describe it. Like, the S5, I feel like I have total control of the camera. With this camera, I don't feel like that, but maybe it's because I just haven't used it, you know? I mean, it's fine, you know, as long as I brighten the image and get my focus in order and then pull it back, it's okay, but it's still much, much more difficult than using the S5. I actually think using a lens like the Helios, that's why the Helios 44-2 lens is so brilliant. It's like genius. You know, it's like, it's got that aperture ring, but then it's got a second aperture ring, which allows you to brighten the image, get your focus in order, and then pull the aperture ring back to the aperture that you've chosen. So, like if you choose f8, for example, it allows you to go all the way to f2, the brightest aperture on the lens, get your focus in order, and then pull it all the way back to f8. And you can even stop in between. So as much as you don't know exactly where you are, it's pretty genius, pretty amazing. So that would be a good lens to use. The only problem is a Helios 44-2 is a 58mm lens, which means it's 116 millimeters on a micro four thirds. And that's like a limited, you know what I mean? Like, you can't do much with a 116mm lens in terms of shooting yourself. Like, it doesn't matter. I could zone focus at that point. I'm going to have to be pretty far away from the camera. So anyway, I love the GH5. I think it's amazing. And if it was my only camera, I'd be incredibly grateful to have it, because I can get an unbelievable final image out of this camera. But the usability of it is a whole different thing. Although the battery lasts forever, I will say that. I do like that, and I also like that the ISO on this camera allows you to go pretty high without getting noise that's not good. Put it that way. Like, really, you could go pretty much to, I would say, 12,600, or is it 12,800? Whatever that is. 12,800, I think, because it's 25,600. So 12,800 is usable. Certainly 8,000 is usable. 800, definitely usable. 1,200, 1,600, all of those, you know, all the way up to, I would say, 12,800 usable. Anyway, yeah, I like the GH5. But the monitor does bother me, and I just made this part of the video to stop complaining about the monitor, and yet, there I go, complaining about the monitor again. People who just, you know, are into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, It drives me crazy. Especially drives me crazy when I think about the nurses that I know personally who experienced unspeakable things in the hospitals that they were working in. You know, risking their own lives, having to stay away from their own families too. I mean, it was a crazy time. Crazy time. So, anyway, I'm using the GH5 again. I like this camera, but I do think it's on the way out. I'm probably going to sell it so I can get another S5 and use my anamorphic lenses at the same time. But Micro Four Thirds, kind of a cool thing. Let me tell you a cool little trick on focusing yourself. Like if you're in a scenario like this, and you know, I'm like a little further than arm's length from this camera, wear glasses and use your focus peaking, and you can see the color, whatever color you chose, around your glasses, and it makes it a lot easier. And I'm still using Cine V, and again, I won't know exactly how good this is until I get to my computer, but man, it looks good in the monitor, which is an ironic statement right now because I've been complaining about the monitor this whole time, but it looks good in the monitor. Cine V definitely looks better than Vlog in the monitor. Even though I have the log assist feature on, it doesn't really help like it does in the S5. And I keep comparing it to the S5, like the S5 is the greatest camera ever made. But the thing is, you know, the S5 is the greatest camera ever made. I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm kind of serious too. At least in my experience, I love the S5. But you know, when I had the Sony a6400, I loved that camera. So, yeah. I mean, I didn't like that it did not have stabilization, but, you know, I thought about getting the GH5S, which doesn't have any stabilization. So I think I've gotten to the point where my skills are good enough where I don't really need stabilization in the camera all the time. And, you know, I work a lot off a tripod, honestly. I like to set up the camera, create the best composition I could possibly create, and let life move inside of the frame. You know, use a wider lens and let things move around, and I move around, and I can create a story like that without moving the camera. You know, everybody thinks you have to move the camera all the time, you know. Sometimes there's movement inside of the camera, and that's enough. So I think that's something to bear in mind. I've been interrupting this video a lot, right, because I realized it's kind of a personal video that you don't generally put on YouTube, you know what I mean? And I originally was talking about the anniversary of COVID lockdown, but I realized it kind of swayed to losing a friend, which pisses me off, you know? But I think on my channel anyway, people appreciate those kind of stories, you know? Or I share personal stories that you probably have gone through. You know, I think we've all gone through stuff like that. What I like about this shot, too, is I'm shooting into the light, which is really cinematic. You know, like, you see the dark part of my face, but you can see the light, and this is natural light, and this is what everybody's trying to achieve with, you know, fake lighting. But I'm doing it with real light, although Cine V, the window is all blown out, so that's kind of a problem. But, you know what? I'll see what I can pull back in post. You know, it's like a complete cloudy sky. But there is some definition in the clouds. I'm going to show that to you in a minute. But, yeah, so let me get back to the video. I'm avoiding just keeping that video as the main part of this, but I think I have good reason for that. And there you can see a beautiful cloudy day. My favorite kind of day, moody, cinematic. And yeah, I'm moving the camera a little bit here, but it's beautiful out there, right? Cine V, I gotta say, it looks pretty good in this monitor. Yeah. I got nothing much to say today other than that. It just kind of pissed me off when I thought about this guy who's probably watching this video. And if you are watching this video, you know who you are. And the fact that you don't have the decency to at least pick up the phone and call me, or text me, or email me, and communicate with me about why you suddenly just ghost me and disappear, that's not a friend. That just makes me realize, like, damn, for all those years, our friendship, our relationship was a lie. Like, you were full of shit. I don't appreciate that. You know, the other thing I wanted to point out, people say Micro Four Thirds, it's hard to get proper depth of field. Sorry, I was looking in the monitor. Now I'm looking at you. It's hard to get proper depth of field, right? But if you look like over here, right? Like over here where my finger is, I mean, look at that depth of field, right? This is Micro Four Thirds. Like, I'm in focus, right? I'm in pretty good focus right here. And look at the depth of field that you get from this is the steering wheel. Or look at my hands right here, how blurry they are, right? Like, come on. You can get that full frame look from a Micro Four Thirds camera. So stop crying about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have a GH7, you got a dope-ass camera, okay? If you got a GH5, if you got a Blackmagic Micro Four Thirds camera, you got a dope-ass camera. And you can get plenty, you just have to know what you're doing. You have to know how to place the camera. You have to know how to work with aperture. You don't have to get the proper lenses. Like, you have to get longer lenses or the widest possible lens. Like, Micro Four Thirds, yeah, you're going to have to buy like a 12 millimeter lens or a 9 millimeter lens, or, get something that, a 10 millimeter lens that'll give you a 20 millimeter or 24 or 18 millimeter perspective. And that's wide enough, So you're good. So stop complaining. Micro Four Thirds is dope. Why am I talking about Micro Four Thirds so much? S5 is my camera, yo. I'm making this feature film with the S5, but I don't know. Like I bought this GH5 kind of by accident. And so I've learned a lot now about Micro Four Thirds, and I see that all the talk about the disadvantages of Micro Four Thirds is complete, utter bullshit. Sorry, but not sorry, it is. The talk of low light, like all of that, it's total bullshit. It's like marketing, trying to I don't know, like push you away from Micro Four Thirds because camera companies are not making them as much anymore. Like, it's total ridiculousness, yo. Micro Four Thirds could get you done. I'm telling you, can make you a movie with Micro Four Thirds without question, no doubt. There are certain people who you allow into your life, and sometimes something happens where you realize you didn't know them at all. But you know what? That happens all the time. I'm sure when somebody becomes like a serial murderer or something like that, a lot of people who are in their life, in their real life, are probably shocked. Like, they probably can't believe it. So you know what? Maybe the thing is we don't ever really know anybody, Maybe we don't ever really truly know someone. Or maybe the answer is anybody is capable of doing stupid things or horrible things. We're all capable of being assholes. We're all capable of doing amazing things. Maybe everything's always up for grabs. I don't know. Maybe we can't count on anything, Maybe we can't count on anybody. Maybe nothing is for sure, nothing's for certain. We come into this world by ourselves and we leave this world by ourselves. And are we really living these lives by ourselves? Is community a real thing? Is friendship a real thing? Look, I had to give you one more example, okay, of, shallow depth of field. Like, if you look at the truck behind me out there, and you can see how blurry everything is in the back, right? And I'm in focus here. I'm probably arm's length from this camera. And again, it's Micro Four Thirds. So I have a TT Artisan 17 millimeter f1.4. So that's like a full frame equivalent of 35 millimeter, like f2.8. And I mean, I think aperture also doubles just like the focal length. I don't know about that, but I know it's not f1.4. It's some kind of equivalent of f2, 2.5, 2.8, something like that. But regardless, forget the numbers. Just look behind me. Like, look how it looks. It looks incredible, Like, you can get the shallow depth of field. You can get exactly what you want. You can create whatever you want to create with Micro Four Thirds. So, it's astounding to me how people get caught up in this marketing thing on YouTube. And that's all it is, Like, you are so interested in the specs, you're so interested in the size of the sensor, when the size of the sensor has nothing to do with the quality of the image. That's a true story. I mean, what you want if you're making a movie is you want a good quality image. So get a sensor that's good, And the thing is, you want all these megapixels for photography, but for filmmaking, you want less megapixels, and resolution, yes, but come on, you could shoot 1080, you could shoot 4K, you don't need 6K, 8K, all of that. But if you really want it, look, Micro Four Thirds is going to give you open gate on almost every Micro Four Thirds camera. So you're going to be able to repurpose, your stuff and, make 16 by 9, 9 by 16. You're going to be able to do whatever you want to do with Micro Four Thirds. And it's not going to hurt you with low light. It's not going to hurt you with shallow depth of field. It's not. The ISO capabilities on these cameras is remarkable now, And the other thing is, like, do you think anybody really cares if you have a little bit of noise in your image? Like, stop denoising your image to get a perfectly clean image. Unless you're working for Nike or somebody who's paying you, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a commercial and says, look, I want no noise. Like, if they specifically say that, then yes, get yourself a full frame camera that has dual native ISO to 12,600 and make sure that you have no noise in your image. But for the other 99.999% of the human beings on the planet Earth who don't need that, if you can get a Micro Four Thirds camera and you're going to save all kinds of money, like buy a GH5 for $475, or get a used GH6 for probably $1,000, something like that. It's even more capable. Or get yourself a brand new GH7 for $2,000, or spend $2,700 and get the 32-bit float, the XLR extension. I mean, for that amount of money, come on, you got the best possible scenario for a mirrorless camera that you could have, cheaper than any other scenario. And that's a fact. Our relationship's something that you could really believe. Our friends real, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I've had a couple of other circumstances like this happen in my life. And I guess sometimes everybody is just for a season, right? Everybody comes in to your life at a certain time for some kind of reason, and then they're gone. Whether it's a love relationship or a friendship or a working relationship or whatever, and sometimes there are no answers. Sometimes it just is what it is. And so that's life. And here comes a train, so I'm going to get out of here right now because you won't be able to hear me. So, all right, I'll talk to you later. Okay, the conspiracy theory I was talking about. And one thing I want to say real quick too. I shot all day with this GH5 today, just kind of putting it through its paces and shooting some headshot and getting some B-roll and just doing a whole lot of stuff. And now I'm in here, and this battery has lasted all day. Like, unbelievable. I started shooting early today, and I've been doing it all day, just running around all over the place. And the battery on the GH5 is dope. It's really, really good. So, and the S5 has great batteries too, but the GH5, I don't know. It's like, I think the batteries are a little bit better. Maybe the software in the camera is set up to support the power a little bit better, but I don't know. But anyway, here's the thing. I had a good friend, and it's kind of risky for me to tell this story because this person might very well be watching this video because I know she follows my work. So I'm not going to say her name, and I'm not going to embarrass her, and I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not even going to tell you what she does because, I don't want to, like, show who she is in any way, shape, or form. I don't want to identify her. I get a call one day telling me that this person found something out about me that I have every right to know. And I'm like, okay, it sounds serious. And she said, you know what? Like, I've thought about this, and there was part of me that didn't want to tell you this, but I just feel like you should know this. Like, this is really deep, and I'm going to tell you. I'm like, okay. She says, I'm going to send you a couple of videos, a couple of TikTok videos. And so right away, I'm like, I'm backing off because TikTok videos and real information and news, like, I know there's plenty of real stuff on TikTok, but I also know there's a ton of misinformation and bullshit there. So anyway, she said, I'm going to send you a couple of TikTok videos, which, by the way, is the same thing here at YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and everywhere. Like online in general, you have to be really about your due diligence to make sure you get the truth. So I digress. She says, I'm going to send you a couple of these videos, but I'm going to tell you up front. You ever heard of the adoption train? I said, of course, I know all about them. She says, well, if you've investigated them, did you notice that all the children were white? I was like, I never noticed, but okay. She goes, yeah, they were all white children. And they were all about the same age, same size. They all looked the same pretty much. And I'm like, so all white babies look alike? She's like, very funny. I'm like, well, that's what it sounds like what you're saying. She goes, well, maybe I am kind of saying that. I'm like, just tell me what. You don't even have to send me the videos, just tell me. And she's like, I want to send you the videos. So she goes, look, this is too upsetting for me. And she hangs up the phone. And then she sends me the videos. And the videos are about some experiment and some information that was found that these babies were made because they wanted more white children in this country. Like, we weren't making enough white babies. And so it's hard for me to even say this without laughing. And so somebody came up with a way to make babies out of cabbage. Yeah, I said cabbage. C-A-B-B-A-G-E, the food. Cabbage. So I called her up and I was like, yo, are you saying I'm cabbage? She's like, yes, Rock, you're cabbage. Because, I was adopted, I was fostered, I was around that time of the adoption train. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, are you serious? I said, listen, you're into all these wild, what's so funny? Can you hear that siren now? That is perfect timing. A big siren outside my motherfucking window. I was like, yo, you've been spewing all these conspiracy theories that I've been listening to for a long time because I love you, I respect you, you're my friend. But this right here is like, now I think you are out of your motherfucking mind. Like, I am not cabbage. I'm a real person. I've been to the doctor in my life. It's been pretty much confirmed. I'm a real person. She's like, look, I can only give you the information. I can't, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how they worked all that part out. And we're going back and forth. And so that's what I'm saying, Like, I went through a lot of stuff with this friend of mine. I didn't include the whole video that I shot about this guy who ghosted me. But a lot of this conspiracy theory stuff, at least for me personally, I ain't with it. I think that in many, many, many cases we have lost our way. And you should listen to me because I'm cabbage. So sorry, I almost forgot. Please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Please consider joining my Patreon. That would be so awesome if you would consider doing something like that. And I can't even tell if I'm in focus right now because I mentioned that the monitor on this camera sucks. Like, I'm outside, I can't really... Maybe it's my eyes. I have no idea. Now I feel like I'm complaining way too much. But anyway, all of that, thanks so much, and I will see you in a minute. Hope you enjoy the video.